How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Probably haven't seen me in like a couple months, but life got the best of me. Baby, work, Ryan's been taking over and obviously held down the ship with ease, puts out some phenomenal content on a daily basis. But I'm back for today's episode, and I'm sure you guys miss me a lot. It's been a minute, and I have a lot of thoughts on the Yankees. I have been writing about them and talking about them plenty, so it's not as if I haven't been following. I'm very much up to date with this team right now. And obviously, today we're going to talk about George Lombard Jr. being promoted to Double A from High A, and this is exciting, man. This is a really big moment for Lombard, and it kind of expedites the process. Could we see this kid in the majors in 2026? Is that a realistic possibility? Now, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, and that's why we're going to have this discussion, talk about where he is, how he's performing, what we expect from him long term, and then we're going to transition to the starting rotation because, guys, that unit blows in a lot of ways, except for Max Fried, and obviously Fried, and then obviously Carlos Rodon has been excellent too as of recent. So we'll talk about that. Kind of Will Warren, Carlos Carrasco blows, and then we'll let it go from there. And we have a little bit of a plan. Ryan has a nice little strategy to shake things up and maybe get some youth into the mix here. But Ryan, before we dive into the good stuff, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. When you look at the situation with George Lombard Jr. and him getting promoted, I'll be honest, I did not expect the New York Yankees to promote George Lombard Jr. to Double A this quickly. But that is not because he didn't deserve it. He absolutely deserved that promotion. He has been incredible at the Hudson Valley Renegades. I got to see him last week. His swing, I mean, the sound the ball makes off the bat when he hits a ball square, it is truly incredible. The new swing he has is so much better than the one we saw last year. His feel for contact is excellent. He had more walks than contacts in the South. He had more walks and strikeouts, in the South Atlantic League. He had 6 doubles in his last 7 games. So as the weather has heated up, he has started to do more damage on contact. So George Lombard Jr. is younger than me, and he is in Double A. I think he's the youngest player in the Eastern League, so that's really cool. I mean, it's just crazy to have a teenager in Double A, and another year where we look at the farm system going into the year. And I think the thought process was this farm wasn't going to be very good this year because of the trades and the injuries they went through last year. I'm looking at this farm system right now, and I'm saying, Alex, they've got a top prospect who is, one of the 30 or so best prospects in baseball. They've got a bevy of pitchers in the lower levels of their farm system, and that is a really good spot to be in. So farm system's really taking a step forward. But Alex, as you mentioned with the rotation, and this is going to kind of parlay into this rotation's been bad. This rotation's been bad outside of Rodon and Fried. It's been a really bad back half. The two guys that we're going to talk about, I imagine, is Carrasco and Warren. I know Schmidt's numbers aren't great, but I think we're going to give him a pass because it's been 3 starts. Carrasco's, a retired player, basically. I mean, Alex, he was so washed that Cleveland had him throw a first pitch in the ALCS. He was throwing out first pitches. Have you ever seen a guy throw out a first pitch and you go, oh, yeah, that guy's still a big leaguer? You go, oh, wow, yeah, that guy. Remember when he played? Remember when he was good? You don't go, oh, man, I can't wait to have him starting in my rotation for a playoff contender. Like, Carrasco's cooked. Warren is pitching scared. Like, I've watched Warren throw this year, and I've gone, he's making the same mistakes he does in his first starts. Like, I don't see the progress. I don't see the maturity on the mound. I don't see the confidence improving. I got to see something shake up here. Alex, what are you thinking in terms of the rotation right now? What is your confidence level at which Carrasco and Warren, and how urgent do you think the Yankees need to act in order to address those issues?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start from the top. Max Fried's been amazing. Probably has saved the season. That's how big that signing was. Without him, this team is in shambles right now. He's basically giving you an automatic win every time he steps on the mound. He is performing as an ace level should, and he's making his money right now. That's for damn certain. And Carlos Rodon, he's been excellent the last 2 or 3 starts. Like he's been really, really, really solid. The slider's working, the fastball's working. He's pitching with confidence. He's stable. He usually either lets up a lot of runs right off the bat or he kind of falters later on in his performances. He's been very consistent, and Boone has been doing a pretty solid job pulling him right before he falls off a cliff, right before that pitch count gets a little bit too high. So they've been working him perfectly. Clark Schmidt, as you said, he's only had 3 starts. I think he looked better in the last one. I'm going to give him a pass. He's making progress. He's building up. I'm not worried about Clark Schmidt at all. But yeah, Will Warren, like you said, is pitching scared. The biggest concern to me about Will Warren is not his fastball, which I think has a 138 batting average against it. Low slug. His fastball's been solid. It's the sweeper. The sweeper, that's his MO. That's his go-to pitch. It has a 360 batting average. Guys are killing it. He's hanging it over the middle of the plate. So that pitch is not being located properly. And like you just said, he's pitching scared. He's pitching without confidence. If he was able to just get that slider where it needed to be, and it's an elite pitch by all the advanced metrics. It's an elite pitch. If his fastball and slider were kicking ass right now, Will Warren would be a fine piece to this rotation. He'd be completely fine. And that's why the Yankees keep throwing him back out there, because they want to see if he can get the slider where it needs to be. And then Carlos Carrasco, when you said he threw out a first pitch, I thought you meant he was opening, and then I was like, oh, he actually meant he's throwing out a first pitch. I was like, oh my god, like he should be retired. This is an old man. Like, God, he's almost in a wheelchair. 38 years old. This dude is going out there. And honestly, I give him all the credit in the world. He should not be pitching right now. He should not be on an MLB roster. He should be on the Miami Marlins. He should be on the Colorado Rockies. He should be a back-end starter for one of the worst teams in baseball. But instead, he is starting games for the Yankees. He's coming in critical moments for the Yankees. You know, that game yesterday when Will Warren gets knocked out early and Carrasco ends up pitching 2 or 3 innings at the end of the game, and he gives up 2 earned runs, and the Yankees, that's the difference between winning and losing. You know, the Yankees come back, they lose 7-5. So he is just a liability. Having to watch Warren and Carrasco in the same start, I would rather do anything else in the world than watch those 2 guys pitch, let alone in different games, let alone in the same freaking game. Brutal experience as a baseball fan. So, you know, I think the Yankees have a lot to work on. First and foremost, I'm probably cutting Carrasco well before I demote Warren. And the reason for that is that Carrasco has nothing else to offer you, right? He is an empty tank right now. But if you look at Will Warren, there is hope. There is potential. At least there's upside. Like, at least there's something we haven't seen yet from Will Warren. Carrasco is just done. He is cooked. Gotta send him back down. I know you have your opinion on who to pull up. I personally would give Allen Winans a chance. He's gone, 15 innings so far in AAA without giving up a run just yet. The fastball, his velocity is not good. Like, he's not a velocity guy. He's throwing 90. But I will say this. He's getting a lot of strikeouts. He's striking out like 15 batters per 9 right now. He's getting good command. His stuff is looking solid. I would give him a chance just because I think he has experience. He's a bit older. He's 29. So I know the guy that you're going to talk to. I'm not going to say his name just yet, but obviously way more inexperienced, and I'm a bit scared just to hurt his confidence. So that's where I'd say, like, you know, I'm okay using your guy too, just because I think they need to do anything at this point. If they're not going to go acquire somebody, they got to try something else, because Carrasco cannot take another freaking pitch, cannot step on the mound another time for this team, and actually the Yankees call themselves competitive, because it is a non-competitive move to have that man pitch a single more inning for this team.
Alex, I fully agree on Carrasco. I mean, he is just, it's a disaster. He's a disaster on the mound. He's providing uncompetitive innings. That's the only way to look at it. Like, he's an uncompetitive starting pitcher. He is, like, he has a 5.91 ERA, a 4.81 expected ERA, a 5.29 FIP, 1.97 home runs allowed per 9, a 7.03 strikeouts per 9. There aren't high strikeout rates or high ground ball rates to look at. There's just home runs, walks, and a lot of contact, and 90-mile-per-hour fastballs right down the chute. So looking at what I would do, and I see the argument for Allen Winans. I don't think it's I don't think it's the worst. Like, I think Allen Winans might be able to outcompete or outpitch Carlos Carrasco, but I think the Yankees need a difference in style rotation-wise. The thing I think that's biting them in the rear right now is that they lack a lot of dominant fastballs. If you look at the Yankees' fastball velocity by pitch type, so four-seam fastball velocity, the Yankees are 20th in Major League Baseball as a rotation. In terms of sinker velocity, they are at 91.9 miles an hour, or 91.7. That's the third slowest. Now, their cutters are firm cutters, but that's because Clark Schmidt throws a hard cutter and Max Fried throws a cutter. I think Carrasco throws a couple of cutters, but very rarely. So that's very anchored by Clark Schmidt and Max Fried. They don't throw hard, is the point. They do not throw hard. Alan Winans is another guy who doesn't throw hard, and so the one thing I'm really skeptical about is that he's just another guy who's like gonna have to nibble and throw like on the edges and be picture perfect to get outs. Cam Schlittler, however, who I have ranked as a top 10 prospect in the organization, he sits 95 miles an hour. He gets tons of extension on his fastball because he's 6'6", so plays like 95 and a half, 96. That's what his 95 plays like. He's topped that at 99 miles an hour. That would play closer to 100 miles an hour with his extension. It's not a dominant fastball, like shape-wise. It's a pretty predictable fastball because he releases from a high release point and it's got vertical ride. So like it's not really like a deceptive pitch. So it's not going to get a ton of whiffs. But the kind of fastball he throws has more cut than run to it. And those kinds of fastballs tend to allow less damage contact. So you can trust Cam Schlittler to throw his fastball over the heart of the plate and get outs. And I think that's a lot different from even someone like Will Warren, who has shown either A, a willingness to not throw his fastballs at the heart of the plate, or B, gets crushed when he does it. So there's a difference there. So, if you want to compare him to Warren and Carrasco, Schlittler's fastball, his primary fastball is a lot easier to throw in zone and get outs with. His sweeper is ridiculous. There are very few pitchers who throw sweepers from a high release point, so his sweeper is very unique. His curveball is really good. His cutter is good. His strike percentage is 5% higher than the average pitcher in AA, which gives me confidence because, as you mentioned, and I think this is a completely fair point to bring up, Cam Schlittler is an inexperienced pitcher. He's never pitched in AAA. He's only pitched in AA, and obviously he's never pitched in the big leagues. So he has made one start in AAA, but he was not ready for it. It was a spot start, and he got blown up in that start last year. But he is a strike thrower who throws hard. And that, to me, is the two things the Yankees don't have enough of on this pitching staff. Guys who throw hard and guys who throw a lot of strikes. I looked at the Yankee pitching staff velocity-wise, and this blew my mind. This blew my mind when I mentioned it on Twitter. Tyler Matzik is, from what I can see here, their hardest thrower. Yeah, Tyler Matzik has the highest sinker velocity, and he's tied for the highest four-seam velocity. Schmidt technically has the highest four-seam velocity at 95 miles an hour, but he's only thrown one four-seamer, so that doesn't really count. They don't have hard throwers on this staff. I think they have the fewest pitches thrown at or above 98 miles an hour. They need some more gas. Schlittler will provide that. And then the other part of this that I think factors into this, you should have Will Warren move into kind of the role that Johnny Brito was in 2 years ago. Alex, I don't know if you remember when the Yankees had Brito, he came up. He was a starter similar to Warren who was thrown into that role because of injuries. And then they moved him to the bullpen, and he was incredible in the bullpen. He was terrible as a starter. He had an ERA and FIP over 5 as a starter. They moved him to the bullpen, ERA under 2, FIP under 3. Warren in that 2 to 3 inning role, maybe you have Ryan Yarbrough open for him. Ryan Yarbrough wasn't incredible against the Rays, but he did give you 4 innings of one-run ball. That's better than Warren gave you, and that's better than Carrasco gave you in 2 innings last night. If Carrasco shut the Rays down, the Yankees have a tie game at 5, and they're playing in extra innings. And I'm not saying they win that game, but shoot, you're in extra innings. It's tied up at 5 in extra innings. You never know what happens. You never know if you can pull off that win. So I think Yarbrough is a better pitcher than Carrasco. Yarbrough, if you're going to burn your bullpen also, like, Alex, how many times the Yankee bullpen end up like just crushed after Carrasco and Warren pitch? They have to like make up for 6 or 7 innings. Warren didn't get out the second against the Rays in his first start against them. I mean, this bullpen's getting absolutely obliterated, hammered by these guys. If I'm going to tax my bullpen, I want to win games. And you can tax your bullpen, with an opener like Yarbrough. And Warren and Yarbrough might only give you 5 or 6 innings max. But that's fine. I'll take that because you're going to win ball games with that strategy. So, so I think they should do both. They should call up a starter, whether it's Winans or Schlittler, and then they should make Yarbrough an opener and Warren the bulk guy. You also get to build up Warren's confidence in a reliever role, and it puts less pressure on him to be a successful starter. If Will Warren is a successful major league reliever, I think you and I will be happy with that outcome. I think everyone would be happy with that outcome, or should be happy with that outcome. But you also have seen guys, quote unquote, fail as starters, become relievers, and then go back to starting again. So, Alex, I wanted to get your thoughts not only on Schlittler, I know you kind of gave your thoughts a little bit, but also on the idea of maybe using Yarbrough and Warren in tandem and trying to use a little bit of a bullpen strategy here.
I mean, I'll give you the best example of why they've already messed up with Will Warren. The route they should have taken with Will Warren is the route they took with Michael King. And Will Warren should have been able to develop his game and build confidence. And then when he was ready, like Michael King recently, I think spoke to the media and was like, I begged Aaron Boone to give me a chance to start after 2 years, begged him. And eventually injuries made it possible. And I went and started, and I was ready for that. And look at him now. He's one of the best starters in the league for the Padres. So I think that they moving Will Warren to the bullpen will allow him to build his confidence because he doesn't have to go 4, 5, 6 innings. He can give everything he has in 1 inning, 2 innings, and it'll be enough. And he'll be able to live to see another day. The problem with Warren is that he's losing a lot of velocity as the games go on, and he's not giving his all because he knows he has to go 4, 5, 6 innings. But if he can just go right off the rip, throwing as hard as he can, as lethal as he can, I think that'll help him a lot. It'll help lower his ERA, build confidence, and then develop his other pitches and really get a feel for like doing it first inning. The first inning he pitches and the second inning he pitches, and then you can expand from there. I think they should just recalibrate entirely with Will Warren and approach him like they would Michael King, like you're kind of sitting like a Johnny Brito kind of role. But I don't even think they can. You could spot start him if need be, if you're desperate, of course. But like, I think you're right. They need to rebuild his confidence out of the bullpen. Look, they literally just did it with Devin Williams. They dropped him from the closer spot. They put him in a setup man role to rebuild his confidence, and he's looked exponentially better over the last couple of appearances. They need to do that with Warren too. The problem is, they can't replace two pitchers, right? We're talking about replacing Carrasco. How do you replace Warren too? So what I would suggest, or what I would think they would do, is you replace Carrasco now with Winans or Schlittler, whoever, like literally anyone that can provide you a different arm, a younger arm. And then you put Will Warren into a bullpen role when Luis Gil comes back. That's the ideal scenario. Or, alternatively, the Yankees acquire somebody on the market, which I think will happen this year. And as we get closer to the trade deadline, we will discuss those options. I know Ryan's a big Pablo Lopez fan, so, we'll see how things materialize as the Twins kind of hang in the balance. But I do think the Yankees will make a move. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but we'll have plenty of options as we get closer to July and August. But I do think, this team's got some stuff to figure out, and they cannot keep throwing Warren out and throwing Carrasco out. Carrasco's cooked just because he's old, and Warren's cooked because he's lost his confidence. And if you have a starting pitcher who doesn't have confidence, you are walking them into a bloodbath every single time. And that is what the Yankees have now succumbed to with Warren. They have nobody else. He's walking into a bloodbath every time. He knows it. The Yankees know it. The fans know it. You can see it written all over his face. And it's a similar situation to how many times have we seen Rodon, for example, over the last 2 years? Like, he gets hit around a little bit, gives a couple hits, maybe an earned run, and his confidence is shot. And suddenly it's 3 runs, 4 runs, and suddenly it's a really bad inning. Warren, the second he gets off his rocker, the second he's shook, he's done. You got to pull him out of the game because he's cooked. And Boone's done it already. We saw him pull him after like 2 innings like 2 weeks ago. So like, they already know that if he gets into trouble, they're pulling him as soon as possible. That cannot be a strategy in a major league team that has a $300 million payroll. That cannot be what you're actually going out and doing and feeling good about it. So I think they will shake things up. I think something is going to change within the next week or two. I just am not totally sure what it is yet.
Yeah, and I think the way I look at this is, so I do understand with Warren, referencing the point you opened with, the injuries are why he had to start. Like, at the end of the day, the Yankees plan to have a much deeper rotation, and you lose Garrett Cole for a year, you lose Luis Gil for 3 months, you lose Clark Schmidt for the start of the season. It really does suck. Like, it does suck to have had those injuries. I sit back and I think to myself, man, like, what if Garrett Cole is healthy? I think about that every time, whether they win or lose. Like, that's just something that's just stayed in my head for weeks now, because I really do think this team would be incredible if they had Garrett Cole. But with Will Warren, with their rotation, I just don't get why they're not being more creative. You have a phenomenal bullpen. Like, I know the bullpen, like, they quote unquote blew the game in the eighth, in the second game. And I'm sorry, that's not on Mark Leiter Jr. Like, that is fully on the defense. Anthony Volpe has to make that play. Like, that's stuff that you can't really put on a pitcher. I'm not saying Mark Leiter Jr. was perfect in that outing, but like, that bullpen is so good. Ian Hamilton's awesome. Fernando Cruz is awesome. Devin Williams is great in that setup man role. Luke Weaver is untouchable. Tim Hill's incredible. I mean, they've got, I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I'm sure I forgot to mention someone. But that bullpen is incredible. It's deep. It's got guys you can close games with. You've got guys you can throw in the 7th to 8th. You have Yarbrough in that group, who's a long reliever. I know Magic hasn't really impressed, but that's fine because either A, he's going to turn it around, or B, you can cut him for Loizaga, who should be back this month. But like, I don't get why the bullpen's not being utilized to try and make up for the rotation. They did it in 2023, and it worked. It worked. I mentioned Brito. They had Vasquez start, give 3 innings. Brito would come in, give 2 or 3, and then they lock it down. You just need 3 relievers after that, or 2 relievers. One of them can give you 2 innings. They won baseball games doing that. They were a really well-pitched team that year. They didn't have Nestor. They didn't have Rodon. Rodon was awful when he was available. Same with Nestor. Severino was either hurt or terrible. Montas missed the entire year except for 1 start. I know you had Cy Young Garrett Cole, but like if you want to look at someone who's performing like Cy Young Garrett Cole did, you have Max Fried right there. And Carlos Rodon is far better than whatever the number 2 starter was for the New York Yankees. Clark Schmidt was probably the number 2 starter. In terms of WAR, like I'm pretty sure he was their second best starter. I know King came around late in the year and he was awesome. And that is part of the equation as well, and that helped them win games. But like realistically, you had 3 starting pitchers. 3. Everyone else couldn't really start or was hurt. So you're in the same situation now. You've got 3 starting pitchers, Fried, Schmidt, Rodon. You got 2 massive problems in Carrasco and Warren. Let's get the bullpen involved. One of these starts have to be a bullpen game. At least one. One of those 2 starts, because my bullpen's getting burnt anyways. So this is really the one bugaboo I have with like Aaron Boone early on in the year. It just feels like this roster isn't being optimized. Like, dude, I'm watching Jason Dominguez sit against righties. I'm watching, Tim Hill not come into games where the Yankees have a 1-run lead. It's the 8th inning. Like, I again, I'm not like a Mark Lehrer Jr. like doubter. I love Mark Lehrer Jr. I think he's actually a pretty good pitcher. But like in the 8th inning against the Rays, why is he in the game instead of Tim Hill? Why is Tim Hill in to clean up a blown lead? Tim Hill has not failed the Yankees like once. Can you think of the last time Tim Hill's blown a save or like blown a lead for the New York Yankees? The only game I can even think of is the Arizona game earlier in the year. So like, I just need to see them, like their best players need to be playing more. Their best matchups need to be in. Like, I don't see a reason why this team is only 4 games above 500. It's not bad. They're not bad. The AL East has been terrible this year. They're not bad. But like, we should have like 21, 22 wins. We should not lose a series to the Orioles or the Rays. I should not see, like, anytime I face a righty, I want Jason Dominguez hitting. You can sit Bellinger in those situations. Let Jason sit against lefties every single time if that has to be what it has to be. I need Hill in the 8th inning or the 7th inning. I need him to come in. The only guys who come in earlier than Hill with a lead should be Williams, Cruz, or Weaver. Anyone else, don't even want to hear their name. I think, again, they have good guys in that bullpen, but Hill's at least the 3rd most reliable reliever on this team right now. And then in the rotation, I can't see Carlos Carrasco get a normal start, and I can't see Will Warren get a normal start, especially on back-to-back days. I never want to see these 2 guys getting normal starts in the same rotation. Maybe 1, not 2. Got to change things up this time through.
I 100% agree. And let's pivot to George Lombard Jr. just for a couple of minutes, because I know we kind of skipped right to the rotation because it's kind of a pressing situation. But, you kind of briefly touched on Lombard and, the sound the ball comes off, the bat makes and the ball comes off. It's just one of those pops that major league guys have. We heard it in spring training, and now we're hearing it again in the minors. This is a guy that could step in and play elite defense at second base, third base, or shortstop on day one. He would be a Gold Glove defensive player on day one, and this is a 19-year-old kid, right? So if the bat catches up, and it is catching up in real time, more pop, more contact, and just more plate discipline. At the moment, he's hitting .329 with a .495 OBP and a .488 slugging rate as a homer, 13 RBIs, 22 runs scored and 11 stolen bases in 24 games in High A with Tampa. If this translates to Double A in Somerset, Ryan, if this translates to Double A and he's hitting, if he has a 150 WRC plus in the first month, How quickly do you think it would take for him to get to AAA? What's the sample of games you got to see for him to get to AAA?
For me, I'd like to see him get a good chunk of time, but I'll say this, it depends on the performance, right? So if it's 2 months and he's got a 170 WRC plus, he's hitting for power, he's hitting for average, he's not striking out a lot, sure, move him up to AAA. Like, sure. If he's playing at elite level for 2 months, why not? But if he's just good, and I'm saying just good in quotation marks here, if he's just good, like I'm not trying to dismiss that, but I would give him more time. And that's only because what you don't want to do is rely on George Lombard Jr. to help you this year or to be your opening day third baseman next year. You want it to be a pleasant surprise. So what do I mean by that? You want I think George Lombard Jr. is on track to be someone who could compete for the third base job or the shortstop job, whatever job's open. It'll be the third base job most likely. I don't see the shortstop job opening up next year. If it's a third base job, yeah, I could see him being ready to take that job next year and be there in spring training and compete. But the Yankees should bring in major league help to and sign an infielder to a major league deal, which they didn't do this offseason. That's a whole other conversation. They should still have like a contingency plan for a major league infield without George Lombard Jr. even next opening day. But this year, like AA, you'd like to spend a lot of time there if possible because it's a good place to develop. It's a good place to work on things. But if George Lombard Jr. just like forces your hand, yeah, you move him up in like 2 months. Like it really it depends on the performance. It really does. But I will say he's just so damn tooled up. He's such a good defensive shortstop. He's a really good base runner. He's got really good feel for the strike zone. He knows what a strike is. He doesn't chase a lot. He's got a good feel for power. The contact is the only thing he needs to work on. His contact tool, I think that's going to get exposed a little bit in AA. His strikeout rates are better than his contact tool is. Like his feel for contact, it's not like 60, 70 grade right now. It's close to like 40 to 45 right now. But in AA, facing better competition, that's where you can, get your licks in, get beat up a little bit, strike out a lot, and then kind of figure out how to work on that from there. Jason Dominguez was someone who had like a really bad hit tool, or not a really bad hit tool, but struggled with his hit tool early in his pro career and figured it out by, getting an aggressive promotion in AA and spending some time there and working on those things and improving. So I just say this to say that like I want fans to be patient with Lombard. I don't want this like 1 month from now Lombard struggling in AA and people are like, this guy's a bust. He needs time. He's going to need time. He's going to need a lot of time, most likely. But in the off chance that he doesn't, the Yankees should also move him up quickly. So it's a little bit of a fence-sitting answer here, but it's all relative to performance. And I will say about the Yankee farm system moving forward, too, again, this group is a lot better than I think most people believe they would be at this point in time. Second round pick Bryce Cunningham looks like a top 100 prospect. Carlos LaGrange, he throws 102 miles an hour. He's throwing way more strikes than he has, in years past. And he's in high and he's awesome. Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, the Yankees got for Carlos Narvaez, which, look, Carlos Narvaez is a solid starting catcher. And I've always kind of pegged him as a big league catcher. But the Yankees, I'm sorry, the Yankees are absolutely crushing that trade right now. Carlos Narvaez would have zero trade value for them. They would have zero use for Carlos Narvaez on this big league roster. Elmer Rodriguez Cruz is one of the most impressive pitching prospects in the game right now. He's got sinker, curveball, sweeper, splitter. He's got a four-seamer. He's got 5 different pitches. He's got plus command, plus pitchability, plus stuff, plus swing and miss rates, plus ground ball rates. Ben Hess, their first round pick, command's a little bit shoddy, but the fastball and changeup are plus pitches. Spencer Jones is hitting for more power, which is a really good improvement for him. Not saying he's going to go back on the top 100 list, but he bumped up my list about a spot. And then you look at the existing major league talent, Volpe, Wells, Rice, Dominguez is playing every day. Those 4 guys can be a part of this group for years to come. If Luis Heel can come back to the fold, is he going to be a long-term piece? I think he could be. I think that last year displayed that there are reasons he could, reasons he couldn't. If Will Warren's able to contribute at some point, that would be great. But I'm not going to bank on it this year. I think that the one big positive is that a lot of the young players, a lot of the things that like mean something for your long-term competitive window, they're turning up good for the Yankees right now. They're getting a good year from Wells. They're getting a good year from Volpe. They're getting a good year from Rice. They're getting a good year from a lot of their top prospects. Alex, they have a nice little cluster of pitching prospects. That's not mentioning Cam Schiller's been awesome. Brendan Beck's been great in AA. They have a ton of relievers who have dominated. So I'm personally really excited to see where this farm system ends up ranking midseason and at the end of the year. Because again, Alex, they could have 4 top 100 prospects by the end of the year, and that's right. Like that's pretty special.
The Yankees dev wins again, as they say. This is a minor league system that there's a reason they drafted 7 pitchers 2 years ago, right? They knew they were going to be leveraging them. They knew they were sending a bunch in the Juan Soto trade. They were stocking up for the future. Pitchers are always valuable. As you mentioned, they traded Carlos Narvaez for a pitcher from the Red Sox and international signing pool money. Like, they were restocking, and they are so good at developing talent that guys come out of the woodworks. Guys you didn't really hear about until now. Chase Hampton would have been right up there if not for Tommy John surgery again. So, he was supposed to be there too. He would have been headlining that class. I will say Spencer Jones, not really getting there. That's just another guy that we'll talk about, I think, a different day because he kind of deserves his own episode right now. But I will say Lombard Jr., as you said, don't rush the kid. This is a guy that if you do this the right way, if you operate with intention here, this guy could be a superstar, right? This guy could have an unbelievable career. We just have to give him the time to get there. This is a 19-year-old, and he's already, we're talking about him potentially competing in 2026 at 20 years old. That is as rare as it gets. That's when Juan Soto ended up in the majors or something, 19, 20 years old. So we're talking about a really young guy. If you give him an extra couple of years, his frame to fill out and to really get to the next level and dominate there, even if it's 2027, you might be walking into a really good situation if you're the Yankees, and not a bad place to be. But this is a really solid farm system. There's a lot of talent here. I'm not concerned, at all. And the Yankees already have graduated a large portion of them. Volpe, obviously Dominguez, and I think we'll do a whole other episode, or at least you'll do an episode on Dominguez alone, because he's another guy that's kind of being used oddly. And I get it because they want to get Trent Grisham involved as much as possible because he's red hot right now and he's an elite defender. So I understand, why he's getting kind of shafted at the moment in terms of playing time, but some of the decisions are just mind-boggling, so we'll see what happens moving forward. We'll see how the Yankees approach Dominguez's development and growth, but he's been a little bit inconsistent. I'd say a lot of it even, but obviously I want to get your guys' take opinion, and really on Lombard, his step forward here, when you guys think he'll be in the majors, or what your hopes and dreams are for him in the next year or two. And then obviously the starting rotation. How do you remedy this? How do you solve this? Do you go out and, find a open market, free agent type of guy to fill in, veteran, if there is anything available? Do you go out and, try to trade for somebody? Do you try to promote somebody from within that can offer you a little bit of a different mix and style? Love to hear your opinions as always, my friends. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my return to the podcast today. I'll try to get more involved as we continue forward when I have the time. But appreciate you guys nonetheless. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.